Welcome to the Master Cars Pro channel. Today we talk about the problems and weaknesses of this wonderful car. We are starting with the power units as usual. For Nissan Qashqai, two gasoline engines were offered: 1.6 HR16DE, 2.0 MR20DE and 3 diesels: 1.5 K9K, 1.6 R9M, 2.0 M9R. Gasoline engines are very reliable, and if they were not tormented by overheating and were serviced in a timely manner, we will not cause significant problems. The timing belt is endowed with a chain drive, which as a rule does not require attention up to 200,000 km. Since there are no hydraulic lifters, every 80,000 km it becomes necessary to adjust the valves. On many copies, with a mileage of more than 100,000 km, there could be an oil burning, 100-300 grams per 1000 km, which dealers attribute to a feature of the unit. However, this is not entirely true. The piston uses narrow rings, which can lay over time. The cylinder head of motors is sensitive to temperature rise, the tightening torque of bolts and spark plugs, so the use of a torque wrench is highly recommended. Of less significant troubles, one can single out the tendency of the throttle to coke, the small resource of the ignition modules, the rear engine mounts, and the ever-whistling alternator belt. The resource of the internal combustion engine up to the capital repair is 300-400,000 km. The line of diesel engines is development of the French company Renault. The main elements of the weakest unit include the burnout of the pistons, cranking of the connecting rod bearings and the small resource of the turbine. A modest resource by European standards is possessed by a particulate filter and EGR valve. On older cars, breakdowns are possible in the electrical part. The bus pressure and crankshaft position sensors fail. When removing the old oil filter, check it for copper shavings and gray turbidity. If any, get ready for the ICA capital. Engine 1.6 appeared after restyling. One of the main disadvantages, it is worth noting the short service life of the timing chain, about 150,000 km, the tendency to coking of the idle speed regulator and the DMVR sensor. Piston rings and valve stem seals are quite problematic here, they rarely can withstand more than 200,000 km. The main complaints about the 2-liter unit are caused by the short service life of Bosch piezo injectors. The problem is aggravated by the unrepairable part and the high cost of a new one. Weak points include the EGR valve with a DPF filter, and if the valve can be cleaned, then the filter must only be replaced. Due to high cost, it is cut out and emulator is installed instead. This engine was not spared by the problem with the crankshaft liners. They turn when the performance of the oil pump decreases. Adds headage and crankshaft oil seal. The fact is that it is built into the lid and changes with it. In cars with high mileage, attention may be required to a crankshaft pulley and crankcase ventilation system and a valve on the fuel rail. The timing chain used in the timing drive, with proper maintenance, can last up to 300,000 km. About the same is enough for the turbine. There were available 5 and 6-speed manual gearboxes, JF011E and JF015E variators, as well as Jatco JF613E automatic transmissions. Manual gearboxes, if you monitor the level of lubrication, do not cause unnecessary problems. Clutch under moderate load nurses 100-120,000 km. The only thing that the owners blame is the excessive noise of the board, especially when the gas is released. The variator is also not bad, but only if it was in the same hands, it was carefully operated and regularly serviced. If you are going to buy Nissan Qashqai with this type of gearbox, you must be aware that this is a time bomb, since replacing the box will cost thousands of dollars. It is almost impossible to diagnose the condition of the variator. The only thing that can be done is to check the oil for shavings and a burning smell. Under heavy loads, the first transmission repair need to be closer to 150,000 km. The first, as a rule, are the bearings, the cones, the belt and the step motor. The meshing has a good resource but is sensitive to the purity of the lubricant. Subject to the maintenance intervals, the box will last more than 250,000 km. The weak points of the automatic transmission include a small resource of the valve body solenoids and the clutches of torque converter. If you operate the car in the slipper to the floor mode, The resource of the blocking leanings of the gas turbine engine will significantly decrease, will last 60–70,000 km. A multi-plate clutch is responsible for connecting the rear axle, which is very afraid of overheating, so you should not consider the car as a full-fledged SUV. If the car is operated in city mode, the clutch will not cause problems, but for outdoor enthusiasts, in addition to the coupling, the gearbox and the universal joint of the propeller shaft are subject to increased wear. The suspension turned out to be surprisingly weak and should bother with extraneous sounds for almost the first kilometers of the run. The problem was especially acute on pre-styling cars, and many original parts did not please with endurance, from shock absorbers to wheel bearings. If the car often drove off the highway, then the chassis had to be touched up every 50–70,000 km. After restyling, the quality of many parts improved significantly, but the chassis remained quite problematic. Most often the stabilizer supports and consumables fails, resource 30–60,000 km. Shock absorbers and wheel bearings last a little longer, on average they serve 70–80,000 km. Ball joints can last about 100,000 km. Silent blocks of levers, depending on the load, withstand 100 and 150,000 km, but a rail rarely withstands more than 100,000 km. For a short time, steering tips and rods are enough, they give up after 60,000 km. Another disadvantage is the creaking boot of the steering shaft. Of the main complaints about the brakes, it is worth highlighting the weak mechanism of the parking brake and the presence of extraneous sounds. Front brake pads serve 40–60,000 km, rear up to 100,000 km. The paintwork of the body of this car, unlike other representative of the brands, tolerates the hardships of everyday use well, plus the most vulnerable spots are covered with protective plastic. But on plastic parts the paint does not hold so well, especially in pre-styling versions. Interior trim materials are quite budgetary and tend to generate various kinds of noise. Most of all, creaks bother the center console, armrest, rear shelf and speakers of the audio system. There are also complaints about the wear resistance of finishing materials. After 100,000 km, the steering wheel braid, gear shift lever, window regulator buttons, door handle covers and leather seat upholstery have significant signs of wear. Well, if you are the owner of this car, then please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your feedback what will help viewers when choosing a car. I'm done. Thank you all very much for your attention. I'm very grateful to you if you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. See you soon!